So I'm sitting down today because I am going to talk about something that is kind of a heavy topic. Also, I'm dealing with some cramps and I didn't feel like standing. I'm going to be talking about my mental health today. And I'm not really looking forward to it, but I think that it would be really good for me to publicly talk about it and get my story out there and my experiences and maybe answer a few questions. So let's just get right into it. I have bipolar 1 disorder and I was diagnosed with it 2 years ago. Exactly, almost. Actually, let's just look at the little current problem list. I have bipolar 1 disorder, panic attack, depression / mild / reoccurrent, which used to be major depression, but I guess things have been looking up. And something that's not on here is PTSD, but that's like a whole other thing that I won't get into in this video. So let's start from the beginning. I was about 17 or 18 when I was diagnosed with major depression. I would just always be on the verge of crying and I didn't know what to do. So it freaked me out. And one thing on top of another just started happening, and eventually it got so bad I had to be hospitalized because I started having thoughts of suicide because I didn't see the point of it all. I didn't really see my purpose in living. This is like really hard for me to talk about. I'm trying to like be upbeat about it, but this is like really hard to talk about actually. After that, I began to push forward and trying to start my life as an adult. I got a job and I really liked that job, but while I was there was so many people at one time talking to you and just a lot of background noise, and I got overstimulated. And I would have anxiety attacks and I would have to go home. I would start crying and I couldn't breathe and I would need to evacuate from the building because it was just too much for me. So eventually I had to quit that job. And once I quit that job, that's when things started to go bad for me. I was dating someone and we had been together for almost 6 years. And it wasn't exactly a healthy relationship. I left them. And it was the hardest thing I ever had to do, but I felt that I needed to break away to figure out who I was. And boy, did I. I started to spiral out. Because I didn't really think it all the way through, I realized how much I hated being alone. Being with someone for so long, you get attached to the feeling of having a person. So I started looking for other people. I started dating quite a few men instead of taking the time to really reflect on myself, which is what I should have done. But it did help me in the long run. So I found this guy, and that is honestly when things started to get interesting for my brain. Now, no shade on him at all. He didn't do anything wrong. It was me. He's actually a really good person. It's just that things just got so messy. So I started dating them, and then after a while, things started to go south. It was just one thing after another that was happening. We were fighting. Our living situation was crumbling. This new life that I loved was falling apart right in front of my face. In the midst of all of that, I somehow got engaged to this person, and that's when my brain just went haywire. The excitement from that, plus the turmoil that we were going through, just did something to me and I flipped. I went nuts. Literally. That just was too much for my brain to handle. There are parts of my experience that I don't remember. Like, I just remember there being eggs on the floor. I think maybe I threw a tantrum at some point because I was upset that we were losing everything. I remember people coming over to visit me while we were trying to figure things out, and I was just kind of gone. But the turning point of it all was when I ran into the street. For some reason, I got it into my head that all of our problems would be solved if he and I moved to Florida. There was a school out in Florida that I was interested in. Also, I had never been to Disney World before. I still haven't, but for some reason, I just knew that if we went there, I would eventually wind up there. I decided that someone on the street would just take us there and everything would be fine. I went out into the street. I don't even think I was wearing shoes at this point, which happens again in my second episode. I ran out into the street in the middle of traffic and was yelling at people to take me to Florida. I'm not making this up. There is like actual documentation of this. Not like videos, but like witnesses. There were these like plants that were on the side of the street, and I was picking up these plants and picking up dirt and throwing them at cars, yelling at them to take me to Florida. And one car did pull over and ask me like what I needed and where I needed to go, and then I told them Florida, and they kind of just like drove away like, girl, please. My boyfriend at the time tried to stop me, but I was uncontrollable at that point. So another man came over and was trying to ask what was going on and like if I needed help, and I was yelling at him. I don't remember what I was saying, but the next thing I know, there was an ambulance and I was on my way to Swedish hospital. I was in the ambulance and I was talking in rhymes, which was the scariest part of it all. For some reason, I could only speak in rhymes and I couldn't stop it. And it was just so fluid. I honestly could have recorded like a mixtape because I was just so on it. It was so strange. Once I got to the hospital, the nurses there were really, really sweet to me. They had to give me a couple shots and I had to sign some stuff, which I don't think was very smart given my state of mind. I definitely should not have been signing any type of documents at all. But I mean, what can you do in that kind of situation? And the next thing I know, they were hauling me upstairs and I was in the psych ward. It was awful. I don't really like this hospital anyways, so having to go there when I needed to be seen was not good. I was there one night and I was hallucinating so badly, like the walls were moving and I was freaking out, and I was like calling for the nurses to help me, but like they were ignoring me at this point because I've been causing so much chaos. Something about the psych ward that people don't really talk about is the people that are there with you. They're all going through something. I met some really amazing, fascinating people while I was in the ward, and I connected with all of them, and we were sharing stories and just getting to know each other and really helping each other get through whatever it was that we were going through. Something that really stood out to me is we were doing when we were in group, we all got to choose a song, and while listening to the song, we would draw and just kind of let the music tell us what to do. And I chose Fix You by Coldplay, which is a song that even to this day, if I hear it, I cry. So to hear it then in my state of mind, I was a mess. And I knew that something was wrong. Even though I was in complete denial about it, I knew in the back of my head that something wasn't right. So they put me on lithium, and I did not like lithium at all. It was awful. I got really, really sick. It was to the point where I was vomiting over and over again. At first they thought that I was making myself throw up or that I wasn't taking my pills properly, but I am one that will surrender to doctors if I need to. I will do what a doctor says. I always have. So for them to think that I was trying to cheat the system, I was really, really pissed. So eventually they released me for some reason, and I went home and I was very, very ill still. I was throwing up every 15 minutes on the dot, and I lost about 15 pounds during that time. I'm not sure of the time span between my discharge and when I went back to a different hospital, but some really bad stuff went down. I wanted to see my fiance at the time. Everyone was telling us that we couldn't see each other, and I wasn't having it. So somehow I ended up at my friend's house. We were talking. She had to go to work, and from there is when I started to wander. I was just walking around, and just talking to random strangers and having like deep, meaningful conversations with them. And at some point, I ended up stealing an old police car. Now, during this entire time, I was seeing signs from the universe that was telling me to do certain things. So I saw this car, it had a name on it that I related to something else, and I was like, this is the car that I need. I went for the door and it opened, and I was like, the keys are in here. I just knew they were in there. And I found the keys inside of the car. And I ended up driving. I just felt like the universe was telling me that this is it. This is your car now, and you are going to use this to get to your man, and everything is going to be fine. I was driving on the expressways, and I was driving down Lakeshore Drive, which if you live in Chicago, you know how scary and dangerous that can be, especially if you're not in your right state of mind. But by some miracle, I made it up to his neighborhood. And by that point, the car started smoking. So I was like, okay, I need to leave this car. So I parked it somewhere behind some building and I left my backpack in it, which had a lot of valuable things inside of it, like my phone. But that's okay. I mean, I lived, so that's like the most important part, right? I found this building and I went inside it and I saw a name. I forget what it was, but it related to my name in some way. And I was just like, this is my building. And it has so many apartments inside of it, so I can fit all of my friends in it. And I walked out, and then I found this school that was for Jewish and Christian kids. And I just felt like it was so meaningful, and the doors were open again, and I just felt like that was a sign from the universe telling me that this is the school that I was going to teach and to lead and bring unity within the entire world by teaching the children. It was weird. At some point I took off my shoes and put on some boots that I had found in the building, and then I ended up leaving those in the building and taking this blanket with me. And I just like wrapped myself in this blanket. Actually, I can show you it. I still have this blanket. I don't really know why. It's a beautiful blanket. I felt that it was super meaningful and that I needed it and that it was for me. And eventually the police found me. So I told them the situation. They're like, where are you going? And I told them that I was trying to find this place, and they told me that they couldn't take me there, but they took me around the area and told me where I needed to go. So I assumed that my parents like called the police because they were like, our kid's missing. Like, we haven't had any contact with her because like my phone was gone. So I made it to his house and I was just bonkers. I was just talking nonsense and I was telling them about everything that I had seen and what it all meant. And then eventually my dad showed up. He took me to Mercy Hospital. I was crying like crazy. I was yelling at my dad and I was telling him that he wasn't my dad and just saying all of these horrible things. Which, Dad, if you're watching this, which I know you are, I'm really sorry. That wasn't me. You know that. I didn't mean any of that. But that's when I finally got the help that I needed. Mercy Hospital is like the best hospital ever. I was actually born there, so I knew I was in good hands. But at that point, they finally told me, oh, you have bipolar disorder. And I was like, yeah, no, like, that's not what it is at all. Like, that's insane, that's crazy, like, I don't have bipolar disorder, I'm fine, like, everybody's wrong, and you guys need to let me leave. And I was just so focused on leaving and getting back to my old self. They gave me information about bipolar disorder and all of the symptoms and the grandiose delusional ideas. I was just like, they're not grandiose, they're real, like, why are you trying to crush my dreams? Because they weren't real, Ariel. The more they talked to me about it and the more group sessions that I had and the more individual sessions that I had, the more I started to kind of accept what was going on. I remember they kept telling me, oh, you're gonna leave today. Oh, you're gonna leave tomorrow. Like, don't worry, you're going to leave tomorrow. And I kept hanging on to that. And the next day would come and I'd be like, okay, so like I get to go home, right? And they're like, no, not today. And the more days that they did that, the more upset I got. And I remember at one point I just went up to the lady at the counter and started crying to her, and I'm like, why do they keep doing this to me? Why are they lying to me? And I just got really overwhelmed, and she asked if I wanted an injection to calm me down, and I said sure, fine. And at this point, like, I had fallen down on the ground and I was just like all curled up and crying, and there was a nurse there rubbing my back telling me everything's gonna be okay, you just have to relax and trust us. And they gave me a shot and then I started to calm down, and then I went to bed. Eventually I was released and I had mandatory group therapy. They originally told me that this program was going to last around 8 months. And when I got there to my first session, there were people that were leaving the program that had been there for the full 8 months. And they were talking about how happy they were and their experiences, and talking about how much it helped them and how much progress that they made and their plans for the future. And I remember thinking on my first day there, like, wow, I cannot wait for that to be me. I recommend group therapy to everyone, honestly. It's such a good way to express yourself and to hear other people's stories. It really reels in the fact that you are not alone, that other people are going through problems just like yours, worse than yours, not as bad as yours, but everybody is going through something and you are all there to support each other and you all have the same goal, which is to get better. Every day we would start off by saying the Serenity Prayer, and if you don't know what that is, I'll recite it for you. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This is something that I say to myself when I'm in a sticky situation or when I'm feeling overwhelmed. I met some really, truly amazing people in group therapy, and they are just so strong. I was really, really determined to get better. I didn't want to stay sick. I wanted to do everything that I possibly could so that I could be normal again, whatever that means. So I worked hard. My mom would drive me every single morning, and the sessions were like 4 hours long, but it went by so quickly because once you start engaging, you look up and the time's gone. They taught us how to keep track of our medicine and how to keep track of our emotions, and it was extremely helpful. So because I was working so hard and they saw that, I ended up being able to leave after only a month of attending. You're supposed to go for 8 months, but I was able to leave after 1 month because of how hard I was working and how much I applied what they were teaching me. I remember them telling me that it was time for me to go and that I would be leaving the program. And I thought, why? Did something happen with my insurance? Did I do something wrong? And they're like, no, you're ready. And I just cried a lot because I had been through so much the past couple months, and for them to tell me that I was ready to enter the real world by myself was huge. I got a little certificate where it said that I completed the program, and I cried so much because even to date, that was the worst thing that I had ever experienced. To not be in control of your own mind and your body is terrifying. It felt like I was possessed, and to slowly gain control back over yourself and the things that you say and the things that you think was such a good feeling because I know that that was all me. I accomplished that. I worked hard. I took care of myself, and I had such an amazing support system. My parents were phenomenal. My friends, they are amazing. And I was really worried with my friends because during my mania, I was posting things all over Facebook that weren't making any sense. I'm seeing in my memories things that I posted 2 years ago while I was manic, and I'm like, delete, delete, delete. Oh my God, that's so embarrassing. Why did I say that? I was talking to a lot of my Facebook friends and just being so weird. I lost quite a few people along the way, and there were certain people that completely backed away during that time, which I understand. But it did suck though, I'm not gonna lie. It's been a long journey and a lot of combination of medicines to the point where now I haven't been on medication in about a year, which isn't necessarily like a good thing. It's just insurance has been really funky, and I've been seriously monitoring myself as far as my ups and downs. I've been able to notice when I'm starting to get a little floaty to bring myself back down, and when I'm a little bit too low, I know what to do to kind of bring myself back up. Which is why I was feeling kind of low in my last videos and why I was doing the things that I was doing so that I can feel a little bit better. But I don't hesitate if I'm feeling too low to check myself right back into the hospital and get help. It is a personal responsibility to make sure that I am okay. Knowing that I've had it my entire life makes so much sense, like so much sense. I understand myself a lot better than I did before. I hate that that whole thing needed to happen in order for me to understand myself, but you live and you learn, and I lived through that and I have learned a lot. And I honestly feel more myself than I ever have my entire life. Thanks to bipolar disorder. So yeah, there's a lot more that I want to talk about, like medications and how I felt with them and kind of just the aftermath of it all. But I'll save that for another video. It's been 2 years since I've been diagnosed, 2 years since I was manic and had my episodes. It's been 2 years that I've been okay. Really quickly though, I do want to talk about 2 of my tattoos that really mean a lot to me. This one, which says Stay Strong. I got that one after I went into the hospital for the first time. This really helped me a lot, especially as far as self-harm. And this one that says Not Alone. I got this idea from a really good friend of mine. Her name is Sarah, and she's wonderful and beautiful and perfect, and I adore her. And you'll meet her at some point. And she had that tattoo, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I'm like, oh my god, yes, I need that. I need to see that on the regular basis to know that no matter what it is that I'm going through, I'm not alone. I can reach out to people and talk to people and get encouragement from people and encourage other people. Which is why I even decided to make this video in the first place. It's to let people know that you're not alone. Bipolar disorder is scary. Anxiety disorder is terrifying, literally. Depression is god awful, but you're not alone. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. Sorry. But no, seriously. I have so much more to say about mental health just as a whole, but I'm going to stop it here and I will pick that back up at a different time. Whew. I'm going to go now and wrap myself up in this blanket here and probably watch some Netflix and drink some water because this was exhausting. So yeah, I hope that you liked this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, yo. If you want to, I mean, like, no pressure. But it'd be really great if you did. I hope to see you in the next video. Okay, bye!